everybody, what's up? It's Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies, we would hold the truth hostage. Now, I haven't done an episode of this series, Pop the Culture, where we pop the culture to understand what's going on culturally. Now, this video is about Eric July and the Rippaverse. Now, one thing I want to say is I want to say thank you, Eric July, for doing the Rippaverse, because right now, man, you're making history, and I mean, you've just broken the gate wide open. I mean, a lot of people covering the success of Eric July and the Rippaverse launch with ISOM, which raised over $2 million in less than a week. What a lot of people aren't covering and explaining is just how historical an event this is for counterculture and not just comics but entertainment in general. I mean, with the launch of Rippaverse and ISOM, Eric July has just become the #1 comic book company by a black man in America. The #1 black comic book company in America. And Eric July, man, young Ripper dog, don't value any of the hate that's coming from Black Sands. I even saw some hate from I think it's God Hood Comics, man, other black creators that are hating on you, bro. Don't even worry about it. This should be expected, man. A lot of, I call it the Blacklander syndrome, kind of like Highlander. There's a lot of black creators out there that, only one black person should have validation and attention from the white community at large. So, of course, Black Sands is going to hate on you, come out and say, oh, I only hire and work with black people, though you went to Shark Tank and accepted money from Mark Cuban. You know what I'm saying? It's the hypocritical aspect and the fact that he doesn't even catch himself in this. Then you got God Hood Comics, I think that's the name, hating on you, man. It's to be expected. Now let's focus on the positive. Now, with what the Rippaverse has done is that, in raising $2 million in less than a week, it showcased the demand. Over 20,000 people have pre-ordered Eric July's book, and at a price of I think $30 a book, over 90 pages of storytelling, and the price is very important because it shows how much how high the demand is, that over 20,000 people ordered. And in actuality, Eric July, if you compare those sales, that would put him at one of the top, comic sales, or graphic novels. And I think he'd be in the top 10 or top 5 right now. And the big thing that Eric July, Rippaverse, Young Ripper, has accomplished with the Rippaverse and the ISOM campaign that is just so groundbreaking that others aren't even covering it or explaining it, is that he did this not on Kickstarter, not on Indiegogo. He literally raised the campaign on his website, the Rippaverse, his campaign on his own website. And that right there is huge. That right there, he basically said, I don't even need Kickstarter. I don't even need Indiegogo. I could do it on my own website. And that right there, the ramifications of this, because everyone should know that Indiegogo, when the truckers in Canada were raising money, Indiegogo canceled their campaign. Indiegogo canceled their campaign, the truckers that were trying to raise money in Canada. So, Young Ripper, man, what you just did, my dude, it's amazing. He bypassed any potential issues, because here's the thing, no one besides new media, and that's the beauty of it, is that besides new media, YouTubers, a lot of the mainstream, I think Fox covered Young Ripper's Rippaverse launch and its success. So Fox, all the mainstream comic book websites, CBR, a lot of comic websites, BT isn't even covering this, and I think some other sites aren't covering it. And the great thing about this is it just shows you where they stand, just how liberalized they are, because Eric July, Young Ripper, represents something the progressives hate, and that's A, he's a straight black man, straight. A, he's, B, he's a libertarian, he's not a Democrat, you know what I'm saying? Like many blacks are Democrats, no matter how destructive the Democratic Party has been the black community, the crime bill and so on. So he's he's straight, he's not a Democrat, he's a family man, he actually has a stable family as a father, he's married. All the positives that these so-called progressives, a lot of people think they're about, but if you look at a lot of progressive movements by the progressives and the left, it's really about promoting the destruction of the black family to begin with. They're the ones who started Planned Parenthood and a lot more. But, let's get back to the notion at hand. Now, with what Eric July has accomplished with the ISOM campaign of raising over $2 million in less than 2 weeks, is that he's also kicked the door. He's raised more money than that Keanu Reeves book. That Keanu Reeves book that was on Kickstarter. He's raised more money as an independent. He has no industry ties. He's never been in the industry. He's raised more money than, an Ethan Van Sciver with Cyberfrog. And, Ethan Van Sciver had industry experience. He's been in the industry. He's raised, Eric July's raised more than thanks Zach, your boy Zach with I can't remember the name of the series right now, but Young Ripper has basically kicked the door wide open. He's raised more than Common America. He's raised more and without any industry ties or industry experience in the comic book industry, so he's basically broken the door wide open. And what we're witnessing right now is basically the digital equivalent of what happened with Image Comics when Image Comics was released. But Image Comics was a lot of industry pros that left to form their own independent company. Now, what Eric July is doing, man, he has no industry experience or, in the comic book industry. And this success, to raise over $2 million in less than 2 weeks, raise $1 million in less than a day. It just shows you how hungry the public is for what's happening. And a major movement that's coming is the counter culture to the mainstream media and mainstream entertainment. So Eric July is literally the counter culture, reaction to mainstream comics, DC, Marvel, IDW, Image, Dark Horse, all these companies that have been, plagued with agenda, wokeness. You know what I mean? It's an entitlement. One thing a lot of people don't talk about is a lot of these companies have this notion that they're entitled to your money. You know what I'm saying? They're telling you, oh, this has women, this has LGBTQ, this has all this. You have to buy it. They're entitled to your money, and they're entitled to dictate how you spend your hard-earned money. You know what I'm saying? But what Eric July is doing, and with the Rippaverse, and what's so great about it, is he's broken the door wide open. And he's displayed that the American public are hungry for new content. Not just America, he's even had some orders overseas. It's shown that they're hungry for new content. You know what I'm saying? Especially after, and I've been telling people this for over 2 years now, that DC and Marvel are no longer, they haven't been comic book companies for over 8 years. DC is literally a Warner Brothers branch. It's a branch on Warner Brothers. Marvel Comics is a branch on Disney. You know what I mean? They're a bigger multimedia company to begin with. So they're not in the comic book industry. And what Young Ripper represents, and why they're terrified, and why he's getting no coverage by the mainstream at large. I'll give Fox some respect, and I'll give any, mainstream media that covered him. But the reason he's not getting a lot of coverage is that he represents a major danger. And what Young Ripper is doing is basically, this happened when you had blaxploitation. It's not covered a lot, but blaxploitation saved Hollywood, saved filmmaking, when a lot of black people started making their own movies at a time where Hollywood was stagnant, and a lot of creativity was stolen from blaxploitation films, by Hollywood, and it was demonized. You know what I'm saying? It was demonized by Hollywood. And what's happening with the Rippaverse, and with what Young Ripper's accomplishing, especially at this time when the most popular culture and pop culture more than ever before is black culture. So Young Ripper also is a rapper, and right now the #1 form of music is rap globally. It's, the black American culture has influenced all forms of entertainment, and the #1 form of music globally is hip hop. You got reggaeton, you got a lot of things inspired. And the danger that Young Ripper represents is he can tap into that black culture. You know what I'm saying? He can tap into that and re-input it into his comics, and what he's doing. Now, what Young Ripper can accomplish, and now there's a lot of positive. Now here's the negative and the danger of what could happen to Young Ripper. And I think there's over 60 days left. I think by when it's all said and done, I think he's already at over $2,500,000. I think when it's all said and done, he'll raise over $3 million. Now, the danger of what Young Ripper's doing, and where it could become a downfall, is that, and I respect, shout out to him, man. He invested his own money, $100,000. But what's happened is it's grown, it's succeeded beyond expectation. This is literally, he's not even an independent success. This is basically mainstream success. If you were to compare it, this is like an indie film, making an indie film with a budget of $100,000, raising over $2 million. That's how successful it is. Now, with what's going on that Young Ripper could do, because here's the thing, man. the media's gonna zone in on this, and they're not covering it. He's been banned. Reddit's blocked him. You got mainstream progressive companies hating on him, such as Black Sands. Then you have even Godhood Comics hating on him, and a lot of other blacks hating on him that are part of the leftist and progressive movement. Now, the problem that could happen with Young Ripper is that a lot of indies come out the woodwork saying, hey man, we're gonna replace Marvel and DC. We're gonna provide that need for quality content that they used to provide. But the problem is a lot of independents don't think in the long term, and the long term means, producing content on a monthly basis, bi-weekly, hiring new writers and creators. Now, shout out to Eric July. He's releasing it as the Rippaverse. So by just calling it the Rippaverse, it means he's planning to actually expand it. He's planned expansion. Now he's writing the first book, So, but the danger is the long term. And what he has to do, he has to step back. He's really got to step back. And, where they could get him is if they have him doing more video replies and jumping on videos. Then, and he's explained he's expanded the warehouse for delivery. But what he has to do, and he really has to focus on this, is he has to hire the right people. Now that he's raised over $2 million, he has to either hire or acquire a third party for management. He's going to have management to handle the, funds of the company. And, he's going to have to also have management on top of funding and budgeting the next series, because the danger of this is that it succeeds in the short term. Okay, let's say it ends up with him raising over $3 million. He releases the book, and then you're looking at 3 to 6 months when he's gonna release some new content. And if he doesn't feed the public, and you gotta understand, people that grew up on DC and Marvel, Image Comics and Dark Horse, whatever, they're used to getting fed monthly content, And to me, what I think Young Ripper has to do, Eric July, in the midst of this growth and attention, in all honesty, I think he has to open up a submission guidelines. Now, a submission guidelines for only finished books. Books that are finished, and publishers and creators that have comics that are ready to go, that he could attach to his Rippaverse brand. And there's a couple of them. There's a couple indie guys that have delivered that would work on this. It would be quality. And I think what Young Ripper has to do, and he mentioned this on his video, he wants to expand to television, video games, and so on. That's great, but I would say what he needs to expand on while he has the eye of the public is something that Milestone Comics, the creators of Static Shock, never did. If Young Ripper is all about this expansion and promoting quality and giving people that are creating quality comics a chance, what he should do while he has the attention of the public is he should reach out to somebody for creating a Rippaverse convention, a convention where, comic creators are allowed to come in, creators and artists that, have been banned due to them being not left-leaning. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he would open this convention to, everyone. But I would say if he has a standard, I think his best bet before he expands the brand to films, games, and so on, I think the best step would be to start thinking about a convention, and because he's got some connection to some YouTubers, that are covering this, he could actually have them show up and, talk, like give a speech or, be panelists, that talk and so on. I think if he really wants to expand, the best bet would be to expand with a convention first. Think about a convention. And since he has a YouTube channel, he could always interview the people that will show up at the convention, because, you have Comic-Con, you have all these other conventions that have gone down the drain because of identity politics and so on. If he starts the Rippaverse convention where there won't be any of these identity politics, this woke narrative and, this stuff of preying on people's children and all that, it could actually benefit, guys such as myself. I'm a comic book creator, I'm saying? I have my own website and so on. But I think if, Young Ripper were to expand with a comic book convention first, it would do him better, do him best. And I mean, in a convention, the beauty of a convention, and hopefully he starts this submission. I would be honored to be one of the people to submit some content to be involved with the Rippaverse. Of course, it wouldn't be, with the Rippaverse. And to me, I like what he did, where he creates a set of rules and regulations. No identity politics. None of this woke agenda crap when you're writing. You know what I'm saying? He wants to be very transparent on that. I've started something that I think would truly help on transparency, is that, and it should pop up on his videos, called Sexuality Featured. I think a major thing that should be done is sexuality featured. You have age ratings on books, but you should have sexuality featured as well. So when someone's reading, they know this book will be a straight book or feature lesbian content or LGBT, whatever. You should have a sexuality featured. That's one thing I'm very gonna be promoting a lot as I do my own books, is to have the sexuality featured. Now I think with what Young Ripper's doing, I think he should expand. The first point of expansion should be a convention where people could meet him and panelists, he could talk. And, this is an idea I have, is you could print out full cutouts of your character. So, fans coming in could take a photo with Isom and other indie characters, you know what I'm saying? So, to me, I think with what Young Ripper's doing, Eric July, respect, is he's blown the door wide open. And a lot of other indie creators are going to follow, because now with what he's done, you don't need Kickstarter. You don't need Indiegogo. You start your own website and you could raise the funds right there. But to protect what he's doing in future-wise, he's going to have to, I would say, establish a convention, the Rippaverse convention, because Milestone Comics, the creators of Static Shock, Icon, and so on, that, they sold out to DC, they never did a convention. A lot of black creators like to talk about helping blacks and minorities and, creators in general, but once they reach the top, they don't create conventions. They don't create conventions and so on. I think a Rippaverse convention where, he opens it up to independent creators and he invites new media, YouTubers that are covering this to be on the convention on panels, and creators also, artists, some gaming channels here and there, would be very beneficial to continuing this, because what a Rippaverse convention would do is that if he can't supply the content at a consistent pace, because to me, he's gonna have to expand. A lot of creators need to understand when you say, well, I'm gonna provide the content, quality content, and help replace Marvel, and DC, you're also volunteering to say you're going to replace the output of content they're producing. I'm not saying Young Ripper should be releasing over 100 books a year, you know what I'm saying? But he's gonna have to also sign writers, sign artists and creators, to his brand, to expand and create content at a consistent rate so people can keep getting fed content. It doesn't necessarily have to be his series or whatever, but you're gonna need to sign people. Now, what a convention can do is that if everyone knows once a year or 2 times a year you're gonna have the Rippaverse convention to premiere new content, new creators, and so on, it will bypass the need of him to just create content. You know what I'm saying? A Rippaverse Con would allow new creators, and he could collaborate with new creators, sponsors, and so on. It would be a way to expand, and like I said, he could have YouTubers participate in panels, and those that can't make it, he could have them record a video that will premiere at the convention. So for example, let's say guys such as I think it's called, he has Babyface, heel versus Babyface, whatever. I think he's overseas, so you could have him record a video, then it would premiere on the convention. In that convention he can have, arts and, stuff premiere. So when he said, we're gonna expand to video games and so on, it doesn't necessarily have to be his brand. It could just be, well, we're gonna give video game creators, film directors, and comic book creators a chance with a convention he's hosting, for the long-term success. And, with a convention, he could do that every year, once a year, twice. He could do it twice a year. For example, let's say he does the Rippaverse convention, which will display comic creators, film directors, whatever. And then he could do one that's more focused. For example, he could do the Rippaverse convention that only focuses on films and games, or he could even do the Rippaverse concert where he teams up with musicians and so on. There's always other ways to expand the brand, and expand opportunity. So to me, I look at what he's doing with the Rippaverse. I'd say the biggest thing he has to focus on while it's earning its money is he has to make sure he's hiring the right people, brand management. The Rippaverse right now, he's got to expand to creating its own, YouTube channel, its own Instagram account, its own Facebook page, whatever. He has his own website, you know what I'm saying? So he has to start expanding the brand now. Of course he's got to still run his YouTube channel, but now he's got to create a Rippaverse YouTube channel. You got to start expanding, while the momentum is hot, and now he's raised over 2,500,000. He's got to start signing creators, or working out deals with creators where they'd be published under his brand or something. Because now the ball, now with over 2.5 million, over 30,000 customers, it's a mainstream, it's a major brand now, and now he's got to start hiring the right people and start expanding, you know what I'm saying? Because the way the progressives and leftists will destroy him and try to destroy him is trying to get him to focus on the short term. So they're attacking him, they're hating on him and all that, but they're hating on you in the short term, so they can deny you long-term success. And what Eric July has to do is not get too zoned in or too focused on short term. And now he's raised over 2.5 million, and he's gonna raise over $3 million. Now he's gotta start hiring the people. You gotta have an accountant for this. He started an LLC, but now the brand is grown to an exponential rate. He's gotta hire some brand management, you know what I'm saying? He's got to start the role, the CEO, VIP, you know what I'm saying? He's got to start creating, jobs now, because now the brand's gonna raise over $3 million. That's a lot of money to work with, you know what I'm saying? And if utilized the right way, I'd say if he raises over 2 million, and he's gonna do that in probably over a month, he'll raise over 3 million. You know what I'm saying? Now you gotta look at it as how much can you raise and, expand in 5 months, 6 months, a year. So now he's gotta start hiring people to maintain the brand. You know what I'm saying? And actually reach out to some YouTubers that have the talent, or some people. Like, he's got to open up, who's going to be is he going to be the editor-in-chief? Who's going to be the editor-in-chief of Rippaverse? Who's going to be talent relations? You don't need all these people. You don't need a extreme amount of positions, but he's gonna have to start hiring people to expand the brand, so editor-in-chief. And also he's gotta, now the brand has raised this much money, he's gotta start reaching out to some people for some crossovers. Indie, I'd say keep it indie, man. Keep it independent. Because I remember Image Comics where they screwed up, where Image Comics to me messed up, and a lot of independent comic creators mess up. Dark Horse, Hellboy is teaming up with the mainstream. You don't need, when Image Comics was doing what they did, DC didn't pay Todd McFarlane correctly. He should have never done a Spawn crossover with Batman. Should have never done any crossovers with the mainstream unless they rectified their business practices. And when he did that crossover with Spawn and Batman, he thought, oh man, Spawn's so big he could cross over with Batman. No, in reality, it's that Batman is so big that Spawn still needs to do a crossover with Batman. So, I would love to see Rippaverse with what he's doing, crossover. You got the homie, shout out to, you got Anthony Piper, who's doing, Trill League. I think you got the Fourth Sage, who's done his book. He's a YouTuber. You know what I mean? To me, now you gotta start the brand, editor-in-chief, who's the editor-in-chief, co-editor-in-chief of Rippaverse, who's gonna read submissions, and the submissions gotta be only, finished books, so he could avoid lawsuits, because right now they're gonna try to set him up with lawsuits as well. So to me, Eric July, man, congrats and thank you, because to me, man, you've just opened the door. You've opened the door, and the way you've opened it, there's no closing it now. There's no closing it, because you've raised more money than Keanu Reeves. And that Keanu Reeves book, man, I bought it. I was disappointed in the art. People are buying a book for Keanu Reeves, and the character is not even illustrated in a likeness where you could tell it's Keanu Reeves. So to me, with what Eric July has done, young Ripper has done, he's kicked the door wide open for independent and the counterculture. Because what's happening now is the future is actually podcast and comics. With comic books, there's no limit to your storytelling. You don't need to worry about the budgeting issues you have with film. And a lot more people are going to be doing comics. It won't be, oh, we're making comics for films. No, a lot more comic books will be created, because you have far less limitation when it comes to your creativity and budgeting with comics than you do with films. And just like that, you got podcast taking over as well, because it's far easier to listen to audio without it interfering with your life. You know what I'm saying? And the great thing about comics and graphic novels is you read at your own pace. A television show, you're stuck with the pacing of the show. So if it's 21 minutes, you gotta watch it for 21 minutes. But, with his book, Isom, over 90 pages, some people will read it faster than others. So to me, man, Eric July has blown the door wide open. And, the mainstream culture, BET hasn't covered it. You're going to see a lot of them don't cover, but he's gotten coverage from Fox News, I think the new Newsweek or the New Yorker. So he's getting a lot of coverage already. So there's some leakage from the mainstream. But like I said, what Eric July has to do now is he's got to sit back. He's got to start positioning his the Rippaverse, his whole brand. Because who's going to be editor-in-chief? You know what I'm saying? If he's, who's editor-in-chief? You know what I'm saying? Who's going to read help run the comic side, editor-in-chief? You know what I'm saying? Who's going to be the lead artist? He's got to start hiring people. Of course, he shouldn't start with the whole, hiring people. I'll pay your salary $50,000, $75,000 a year. No, what he's got to do, he's got to be smarter. Smarter would be, I could pay you $30,000 a year plus royalties from merchandise, book sales of the Rippaverse as a whole. So to me, man, what Eric July has to do now, and he's got to do it now, he's got to really start positioning the company and hiring, figuring out who he's going to be hiring, who's going to help him run the company, and the talent he's going to start publishing, on his website and Amazon and, publications, you know what I'm saying? And another thing is, pretty soon, he's a musician. He's going to have to start tours, where, Eric July, is he going on tour where he'll start hitting comic book shops from New York to California, East Coast to West Coast, global. There's a lot to do, man. There's a lot to do, and, this could be the start, and it's the right start, because, like I said, the number one form of culture right now is, Black culture. Rap, music, fashion, you know what I'm saying? So Eric July having experience in the rap culture and music side could really help him, because a lot of the last time you had superstars in the comic book industry was Image Comics, Todd McFarlane, and so on, but they had a major failure. Is that, you got Jim Lee is now working at DC, and they basically shelved his original Wildstorm ideas. Then you got Todd McFarlane, to me, man, who hasn't expanded his brand. The fact that Spawn hasn't had a movie, and Todd McFarlane's worth over $100 million. No new cartoon shows. He's been in the new Mortal Kombat. There's a lot of failure in brand expansion with Image. You know what I'm saying? Beyond, you got Walking Dead and all that. But to me, with what Young Rip was doing, man, if he has to reach out to some business firms and because getting things done, because if he does it all still like he's operating as a one-man show, it's gonna be doomed to fail, because he'll get overwhelmed. How are you gonna tour? And to me, a tour's needed. A tour's needed because it'll allow the public to talk to him, see him in person. You're gonna need the tour, but while you're touring, who's running the company? You know what I'm saying? Who's running the company? Because the problem with being a creator, and the boss is that, man, someone's gonna have to run the company while you're touring. And to me, with his brand, the biggest thing's gonna be him touring. Touring around the country and the world, because that hasn't been done. You don't have comic book creators being superstars anymore. You know what I'm saying? Touring, being on tour bus, hitting different comic book stores, different stores. He could do that. He can usher in the return of the comic book superstar that's traveling the whole country. You know what I'm saying? Touring. So, hopefully he watches this video. And like I said, thank you, man. You blew the door wide open. You've done a lot. Man. They're gonna talk down on you because they fear you, and they're gonna offer to buy you too. They're gonna offer to shelf you. I've been in conversations with some people that told me, they're gonna, they could offer Eric July some, if they offered him $40 million, will he sell out? Because, that's a major issue with black creators, is the urge to sell out. You know what I'm saying? You got Milestone Comics. They used to have DC as just their distributor, which was great. DC, your distribution, great. But then they sold out. You know what I'm saying? They sold out for far less than they're worth. And that's what usually happens to black-owned brands, is they'll wave $40 million in your face when you're worth hundreds of millions, and you could cost them hundreds of millions by competing with them, or even down the road be worth billions. And to me, man, with what he's doing, there's a lot of potential. Everything he said is possible. I come from the game design department. I went to college for game design, and I'm getting heavy into that again. And everything he said, expansion, gaming, clothing, it could all be done, but he's gonna need to hire some people, man. Hire entrepreneurs, hire people that could look at the budget and say, here's what we're gonna do this year, here's what we're not gonna do. We could do a Rippaverse pop-up store. There's a lot of things, man. He's gonna really have to sit back and start positioning and start hiring people, and he's got to be careful who he hires. You can't hire guys that are just friends and ignore some of the issues. Some guys that had late, that provided their books late to the customers. You know what I mean? That have troubling backgrounds, of what they've done. So to me, Eric July, man, he's gonna end up raising over $3 million, and that's great money to start a independent company. You know what I'm saying? And in all honesty, with $3 million, man, he could be more. He could be mainstream, especially from a comic book company perspective. It won't be really be his own LLC. He has an LLC. Could be a very major brand. So he's gotta really, Eric July, if you're listening, you gotta really, I would say you gotta start sitting back, because since you're running this campaign on your website, odds are the money already went through. It's not a Kickstarter or Indiegogo where you gotta wait. So all that money's already pocketed. What he's gotta do, man, Eric, man, you gotta sit back and you really gotta start hiring the right people around this brand and this LLC. And because if you don't, man, that's where the failure will come. The failure is not gonna come in a short term. The failure comes in a long term, where you could get overwhelmed by this success and you're underprepared. I saw the Image Comics documentary. They didn't hire enough professionals to help them run the company, and Image faltered. You know what I'm saying? It's still here, but you know what I'm saying, it ain't what it should have been. You know what I mean? So to me, the danger for you, Eric July, young Ripper, is the long term, becoming overwhelmed by this success and not hiring the right people to handle the budgeting, the promotion. There's a lot you got to do, man. There's a lot of firms. I mean, we're in the digital age, so it's not even as much money as it used to be, like in the early 2000s and 90s. Because 2010s, now you can hire firms to handle your phone calls. You can hire firms for marketing. There's a lot you could do. So with Rippaverse, man, now you got to start creating that YouTube channel. You got to start creating that Instagram. There's a lot of work to do so you could capitalize. And then you got to start hiring the right people. Who's going to be the editor-in-chief? Who's going to be the creative director of the Rippaverse? Who looks for new creative content, new creators, new writers to hire? Who's going to handle the touring, the conventions and all that? You got to start thinking that expansion level. You got to start hiring some people. But other than that, man, young Ripper, respect to you, man. Eric July, man. And don't worry about the haters, man. Don't worry about Black Sands. Black Sands, the creator, has just shown himself. He's shown his true colors. That he's not about, expanding the black market or representation. He's about himself, his greed, and even Godhood Comics. They're about their greed, because this hatred on you, a black man, succeeding, just shows their colors. Even on his own video, previous video, he's competing with Unique Studios. He said, "Oh, they beat me to the punch for getting a TV show and seeing it as competition." I'm gonna tell anybody that's watching this, if you're watching this and you're a black creator, guess what, black creators? You're not in a competition. There's not enough black creators succeeding to call it a competition. You know what I'm saying? There's not many black guys that are succeeding in the comic book industry. You know what I'm saying? So how are you competing? There's not enough players on the field to have a competition. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there'll be some level of competing, but in the grand scheme of things, there's not enough, major successful black brands and black companies to say, oh my God, he's my competition, I hate him. Dude, there's not enough of y'all doing it. You know what I'm saying? So to me, man, Eric July, man, Young Ripper, my G, you broke the whole door down. I wouldn't worry about Black Sands. To me, they just exposed that hatred on you they just placed. They just destroyed their brand. You know what I'm saying? And, Godhood Comics, they've destroyed their brand. Because when they show their true colors that they're about this race, instead of representation, like, I'm a Haitian creator. You know what I'm saying? I represent my people by being a creator of my ilk. But I ain't gonna, I'm not gonna segregate my collaborations with people. You know what I mean? And them thinking they qualify more for success than you, man. You've grinded on YouTube. You've built your brand and awareness. You know what I'm saying? So for them to disrespect that, it shows, man. Black Sands, and Godhood Comics and all these guys hating on you, man. Don't worry about them. The only thing I would say, like I said, focus on the long term. I would say you gotta start, with your website, you gotta start creating an email account. You gotta start filling these roles now. You know what I'm saying? And some guys you're connected to on YouTube, some will be able to do it. But you're gonna have to start contracts. And there's a few guys I know that could help. Because to me, the problem you'll face isn't the short term. This could raise over 5 million in 3 months. But at the same time, you could be out of business in a year. So it's not about the short term, it's the long term preparation. But respect to you, man. And thank you for raising the standard, man. You've literally changed the whole landscape of this independent comic scene. Because now, a lot of creators are about to follow you, man. A lot of bigger creators are going to say, why do it on Indiegogo when I could do it on my own website? A lot of people about to leave Indiegogo. A lot of people about to leave Kickstarter and run their own campaigns. Because, if you fail, I've had some fail on Kickstarter. At the end of the day, you're spending all this time promoting Kickstarter's website, whether you succeed or fail. But Young Ripper, respect to you, man. And this is historical. There will be a documentary on this one day. You know what I'm saying? This is big, and this has the ramifications of this, my brother. You don't even you're not even aware yet that you just changed the whole comic book industry. You've changed the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, to maintain it and continue it, you gotta start planning a long term. And I would say the Rippaverse, the first point of expansion, besides hiring some people, you know what I'm saying, to manage your brand on Kickstarter, on Facebook, YouTube. You need your own new channels. And you're gonna need to hire editor-in-chief. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And and you need to start talking to some firms and establish the budget. How much would an editor-in-chief get paid? And I would do it. I'm an entrepreneur, so I would do it more creatively. An editor-in-chief could, let's say you were paying him like 40 grand a year, but he's getting 20% from royalties from the brand. So he'd be able to make that money back anyway. And there'd be a way for you to do some things. So, man, Eric July, respect, man. And like I said, focus on the long term. You're going to have to sit back. I know there's an urge to keep making videos on your YouTube channel, but dude, you're going to have to sit back. You're going to have to stop answering some phone calls, and you're going to have to focus on the next step, because now you got the money. The next step is hiring the right people to build the brand. Because if the goal is to be a comic company and all that, you're going to have to fill those seats. Editor-in-chief, lead writer, lead artist. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to fill these roles. And you're going to have to start accepting some submissions to build the brand, increase the content that's being created. So other than that, peace, man, and respect to you, bro.